Hello and welcome back to Nathan Bell's podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe and share with your friends. Today, Nate would like to talk about Kyle Gass.
Right, I'm going to talk about this incident with Kyle Gass from Tenacious D and how he made the remark, "Don't miss Trump next time," regarding the Trump assassination attempt. Now, I'm in mixed feelings about this. I've got a number of views on this subject. The discussion comes down to whether we can condone political violence and whether political violence is acceptable. On the one hand, I have the view that we shouldn't wish death on anyone, and it's inappropriate to wish death on people, and that we certainly shouldn't try to kill people. And so in that, if you take that thinking, you would say that Kyle Gass's remarks were offensive because he was wishing death on another human being and wishing violence on another human being. There's also a reminder that innocent people, an innocent man died during the Trump assassination, so it was also offensive to make a joke about it because somebody did die and it was a great tragedy and many people at the event had PTSD from the event. But I'm in mixed feelings about political violence as well because, what if you had the opportunity to shoot Hitler? What if you could assassinate Hitler, a man who ordered the deaths of millions of people, I personally, I don't like violence either, and I don't want to inflict violence on anyone, but I just think it's frankly naive to say that there is no justified political violence. If I was living in the World War II era and I had the opportunity to assassinate Adolf Hitler, I would, without question, knowing what he was doing to the Jewish people. So, be realistic about life, and some people view Trump as worse than Hitler. I don't know whether Trump is worse than Hitler. Hitler was pretty bad. I don't know if Trump's going to order the genocide of millions of people. But what if you had the chance to shoot Hitler? I just find it naive to say that there is never any justification for political violence. I find that an unrealistic view of the world. Again, if you had the chance to shoot Hitler, you would, because he was a scumbag and he killed millions of people and he needed to be taken out. Now, some people say that's only a decision for authorities to make. Well, I don't know if that is only a decision for authorities to make. We're all human beings and we all have a vested interest in what's in the welfare of humanity. So I think any human living at the time of Hitler had, given the opportunity to shoot him, had the right to do so, and that's my view. So do we have the right to attempt to kill someone whose actions we find heinous and offensive? Can murder of that sort be justified? Is political violence acceptable? We're saying in our society absolutely no. Under no circumstances is political violence acceptable. I find that naive. There's some real rotten leaders out there that need to be shot. Sorry if I offend you, but that's just reality. There's some absolute scumbag dictators that have lived throughout history that should be taken out because their actions are terrible and they genocide millions of people. So I think there are circumstances where political violence is justified. So I don't accept that political violence is absolutely off limits. But it's interesting because it's not like the state is coming in and saying, we can't ever say this. There are definitely a lot of people from the state speaking, saying, from both sides of politics, saying this is unacceptable. But this is sort of a consensus the community is coming to through democratic process, that we won't tolerate these sorts of remarks anymore. It's political correctness, and it's a consensus our society is reaching through evolving debate and discussion, that we don't tolerate this sort of remarks anymore, even from performers and comedians who, like in the 80s could have got away with stuff like this. And my big concern about this sort of political correctness is that, we're going to come to a point in this society where we're not allowed to voice any objection to each other's opinions. Now, we have an absolute right in democracy to object to anyone's opinion. I don't have to agree with you. I am under no obligation to agree with anyone at all. I have my own views. I am an individual. I am entitled to my views and to formulate my own opinion. and I cannot be forced to agree with anyone. And with this political correctness, the way it's going around what is acceptable to say and what isn't acceptable to say, we're going to lose the right to agitate, and we're going to lose the right to object to each other's opinions. It's like we're creating this very pacified society, this very stagnant, pacified society where nobody's allowed to be angry anymore and nobody's allowed to express frustration. We're demonizing frustration and expressions of anger. But there are things to be angry about in the world. There are things to be very upset about in the world. So, we're creating this pacified society where we can't voice any objection to each other's opinions because people are so sensitive about each other's opinions. But we have the right to object. I don't have to agree with you. And if I find your actions offensive and I think you're a disgusting, appalling person, I'm going to tell you, and I don't care. And that's why I'm a liberal and I'm about freedom of speech, but I'm a left-wing liberal because I won't be censored. You're not going to censor me. I'm going to say what I think. I'm going to tell you what I think of you. And say you're Hitler, for example. I'm going to tell you I think you're a rotten scumbag and you need to be shot. And I'm not going to be censored for that. So get stuffed. So I'm a left-wing leaning liberal. I believe in freedom of speech. And my concern is we're coming to this point in our society where we can't express any political objection to anyone's position that we disagree with. And I predict that the government, the state, is going to come in and legislate that we can't agitate anymore and we can't say anything offensive anymore. And they're going to bring in this long list of elaborate rules about what we're allowed to say. And I've talked about this in my video on regulating language. They're going to bring in this long list of rules about what is acceptable to say and what we're not allowed to say anymore. And the state is going to enforce that. And it's like they say political correctness is stifling debate. Well, I think it is stifling debate. It's this cancel culture. People can't debate anymore. They can't have robust debate about the issues anymore because there's all these things which are now off limits and that we're not allowed to say and talk about anymore. And we're not allowed to be frustrated. And we're not allowed to say we don't like each other. I don't have to like anyone. It's like our society expects everyone to like everyone. There's people I absolutely don't like, and I don't have to like everyone. We don't have to like each other. It's this unity, everybody get along, conformity, communist crap. I don't have to like anyone I don't like. I'm not going to be told to like people I don't like. If I meet Hitler face to face, I don't like him, and I'm going to tell him I don't like you, and I don't think you should be alive. So, we're coming to this point where we're this very pacified society, and I predict that this is all going to be legislated into law in the next 20 years, and speech is going to be heavily regulated, and we're not going to be allowed to voice any objection to anyone's position anymore. And then I predict that following on from that, the state, the body, the governing body is going to come in and basically seize control of our society, and we're going to end up living in this one-party totalitarian state, this very heavy police state like 1984, and then everything is going to be regulated and nobody's going to be allowed to disagree, and we're all going to be expected to be absolutely compliant and passive and happy and agree all the time, and we're not going to be able to have any protest action or any objection or any right to object or any right to disagree at all. Any arguing at all will be illegal. Any raised voices, any disagreement, any insulting language, it will all be illegal, and it's going to be this complete control state, and it will end up being a one-party totalitarian state, and we will lose democracy, and this is the direction that I feel we're heading, and I know many people agree with me, and I don't support it. We have a right to object. We don't have to like people, and if I had the chance to shoot Hitler, I'd put a bullet in his head in an instant without hesitation. So political violence is absolutely justified under certain circumstances. But, I really would prefer that people don't get shot and that nobody does die, and really the answer to Trump is to vote him out of office, and we should do everything through democracy. But, there's scumbags in the world, and some scumbags, I talked about this in my video on the death penalty. is it justified to determine that somebody else should die? Well, I use Hitler as the example. The man killed millions and millions of people. So what do you think? If you had the chance to shoot him, would you? So anyway, there's some thoughts about Kyle Gass's remarks about the Trump assassination, and it's a shame the shows have been cancelled. I know people were looking forward to seeing Tenacious D, and it's also a shame that Jack Black has disowned Kyle Gass and that there's no more Tenacious D anymore, it would seem, because they were a great band and I liked their style of comedy music. So drop a comment in the comment section about what you think about the whole kerfuffle.